makita ra niyo akong screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, miss. Yes, miss.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do not talk if dili man ako tawagon ha. So just listen. And class, I am requiring you to buy ebooks. It's compared. Dili lang nako full screen because I cannot see you every now and then. Mutanaw ko sa inyo ha. To check, no? Whether na pa ba mo diha or wala na. So, di lang nako na ako ang screen. Hopefully makita ra ninyo. Visible ra ba?
Yes, miss. Yes, miss. Yes,
Okay, thank you. So, comparative models of policing. Now, in comparing policing systems and models from every country, it is important to know what makes or what is the significance of comparing. Okay? Why do we need to compare? Di ba pwedeng ato-ato na lang? No? So, why do we need to compare? Kung mag-compare ganita, it is important for us to know what makes comparison important. So if that's the case, if that's the question, then next question would be, what keeps the other countries bind together? Why do we need to follow international principles? Why do we need to follow international rules and regulations? No? For example, during the pandemic, kinsa may nag-ingon nga dapat mo mag-lockdown, dapat mo mag-quarantine, dapat mag-observe mo og social distancing, and you have to wear masks, and then you have to get this tests, no, RT-PCR test, whether to check if you're positive or not. Kinsa may nagsulti ani? And why do we need to follow them? Okay? It is because in this international arena, we are members of international organizations. Not only members, but we adhere, no? We stick, we abide, we follow kung unsay rules and regulations nga i-implement sa usa ka international organization. So in case of a health emergency, we follow the World Health Organization. Ma'am, pangutana, ma'am. Pwede ra bang di mo follow sa World Health Organization? Pwede gid kaayo. Sa may buhaton nato, ma'am, as Philippines, no, panalitan ikaw mo'y presidente. So may buhaton nimo para dito ta mag-apil-apil na ilahang mga social distancing, or mask, no? Ginata mag lockdown. So may ato ang buhaton. Dili nata mo mahimong member sa World Health Organization. Pwede ba na siya, ma'am? Pwede good kayo. That's what Duterte did sa International Criminal Court. No? Very bold move. Nga si Duterte mismo itiwalag siya sa International Criminal Court, ICC. Kay ikiha manon siya sa International Criminal Court. Ang iha niya is that he violated a crime, killing people who are involved in drugs. So ang iyang gibuhat, himo siyang presidente, wa siya ni itiwalag siya sa kana nga international organization. So pwede jud kayo. Unya, king ana ma'am, pwede ta mo tiwalag sa World Health Organization, pwede sad. No? Pwede gid kaayo na class. Pero naana siya'y consequence. Of course, kanang kontrahan ka. Himuon nila, i-bribe nila ang ubang countries nga i-boycott ka, no? Or i-assassinate ang presidente. That's what happened to other countries. Other countries whose president or prime minister who does not want to abide World Health Organization's rules, it's either will be assassinated or they will be sanctioned by the international arena. So it's a bold move actually. Pura ba og naa ka sa usa ka grupo unya og nakahibaw na ka nga ingana ang mahitabo, igawas ka sa grupo. Karon of course expected nga kontrahan ka in return. Okay? And then nga naman ma'am, kontrahan ko ma'am because we are talking about globalization here. Okay? Why do we need, again, balik na sa itong question, why do we need to compare policing system? Why is their policing system better nya ang ato abati man kaya atong policing system? Here, we will discover, class, nga unsay composition sa usa ka state. Unya, ato ang estudyuhan, unsay, what makes a state? Unsay klaseng sila nga culture? Unsay klase nga government ang ilang i-follow? Unsa nga klase nga territory? No, territory matters actually, geographical location. Nga ang unsay klase nga territory nga ilahang i-occupy? Is it a territory that's considered to be tropical or considered to be very cold or considered to be observing the 4 seasons of the weather? Summer, winter, fall, and the spring. Tropical kaning ato Philippines is example of a tropical country wherein duha ra to ka season, very hot and very rainy. Or is it the geographical location of a country? Kanang very hot, like in some African territories. Kaya nga naman ma'am, why do we need to study all of those? Because we need to understand nganong ing ana nga klase nga policing models ang ilahang i-apply. And then also, di ba ang kada countries na ay label na ay first world country, nasa gitawag nga third world country. Naabay second world ma wala ay kana, it's just a label, it's a term, meaning kung first world country ka, you are very rich economically and stable politically. Yeah, of course we know nga America is one of those country nga considered to be the first world country. Gusto ang mga tao kasagaran gustong maadto sa Amerika to live the American dream. Kung mo sa Amerika, you can be rich there. So third world countries, those are countries nga very poor economically, very poor politically, no, dili stable, and so on. So kuan day ma'am kanang kung mag-study ta or mag-compare ta og policy models, magdepende da ina ma'am kung unsay balaod sad nila. Yes, that's correct. That's the right question. Okay, for example, in China, unsay form of government nila? Just a kanang quick tanaw na tog na ba mo yung stock knowledge? O basta na stock up. Sige, manawag ko dere. Ayaw tingog ha? O wa gitawag? Okay? Para dili chaotic ang atong online class. Villasencio, Juniper.
Yes, ma'am.
Unsay food sa China?
As I've observed, ma'am, kay Kuan, ang power sa Kuan, sa ilang
Lizel Villardar. Uy, 51 na lagi ta. Dapat 50 ra mo. Kaysa may...
Ikaw man ako sa amin.
Ako may ika 51. O, sige.
Yes, miss.
Okay. So, as criminology student, you should know and observe and analyze unsay effect ana sa bisag unsang buhaton ninyo. So for example, kana mag-TikTok mo. Okay, China owned. I've already mentioned this and I always make this as an example because mo man ni ang topic nga makarelate, madali mo makasabot. Kita sa ripple effect. And then knowing that the form of government that China has right now, what yung makatubag o say form of government sa China?
democratic.
Isa may makatubag, tagaan o plus 10.
Ako, miss. Try ko, miss. Miss.
Sige. Si Christine May, say apelido? Christine May
Gatman, miss.
Gatman. Sige, Gatman. Sige, Gatman.
The form of government of China, miss, is communism.
Yes, that's correct. Wait lang ha.
Communist Party of China has monopoly. Breakdown din. Saan mo? Ay?
That's correct. That's correct. Communism. So kung communism, Sigatman, can you tell us more about communism? Its history, its way. Sige, Gatman, tell us more about it.
Kuan, miss, when we say communism is the government has a monopoly on power, so more siya ka ng authoritarian bitaw what the president wants to do kay more mo na i-follow sa mga Chinese people. So
Okay. So, since policy is created by the government, and then the government will enforce it, execute it, and then ingan ka na ay monopoly. Actually, wala man yun ay monopoly ba ang communism? Sa ilahang election, mo elect kag party, political party. Nya, ining election nila, duha ra na ka political party, communism, then liberalism. Communist party o liberal party. It's a difference. I think those are the same thing. Political party ra mo ang i-elect. Once elected, the political party will elect its own chairman. Okay? So, depende kung pila ka term ang ilahang chairman, magdepende sa policy, sa balaod, kung naamag sila yung balaod, kung pila ka term ang political party mo serve sa ilahang country. So, utang ta, political party A and political party B. The people of China will just choose two political parties. Now, if for 100 years, the Chinese people will lose police na lang. So that political party can always choose the same chairman or another chairman, right? Okay. So, kung ana man gani, na ay monopoly, yes. Mahimo siyang dictator, yes. Eventually, it will. Whereas kung arita sa Philippines, every 6 months makaingon nga naay dictatorship. Kay kung mag-dictator ang usa ka presidente sa Pilipinas, sayang dagit kaayo siya pahawaon. It's either through impeachment or iniguman sa iyang term, so 6 years. Di naman siya pwedeng mudagan as president. Okay? That's in under our constitution. The president cannot be re-elected as president. Pwede siyang mudagan sa lain nga posisyon, government position other than the president, other than the presidency. But kung ingana, political party ra yan, ang chairman pwede ra the same person, so naagay monopoly na ay dictatorship. And as a result, we know in history, walay maing laki sa dictatorship, no? Walay maing laki kung magmonopoly na ginay chaos at the end of its term. Unya, we know the policy. We know who created the policy. We know who enforced it. The question there, kung mag-compare ta policing system, unsa nga klase nga policing system ilahang i-employ? Is it militaristic type? Is it paramilitaristic? Or civilian in character, like in the Philippines? Civilian in character. No? Is it kanang ang scope niya within the territory, or pwede ba siyang makago outside of the territory? So naanay mga scope and naanay mga jurisdiction. So China lang ato ang example, but there are many types of policing system as po along, no, as we discussed. At first, ako ang i-point out yun, first yun nga topic, kung mag-compare ta, we should know what is globalization. Because globalization is the concept wherein everything is possible without borders. That means easy access to different territories. So according to Peterson Institute for International Economics, ingon siya, nga ang globalization kuno is the word used to describe the growing interdependence. Interdependence meaning one cannot live without the other. Kaya kung mayroon kag independence, one can only live without the other. Pero mayroon gani kag interdependence, meaning one cannot live without the other thing. And then what is that thing that we're talking about? We are talking about economy. We're talking about culture. We're talking about population, movement of people, the immigration, migration, brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flows of investment, people, and information. As you all know, ang pinaka-powerful nga weapon sa modern time is information and communication. In just one click away, you can call people who are on the other side of the world. No? So countries have built economic partnerships to facilitate these movements over many centuries. So one country can invest to other countries, can trade, can make trade of goods, services, technology, and can also transfer people. Unya, economically, culturally, economics at kay dako kay ni economics. Economically, we are depending from one country to the other. Unya, culturally, instead of we value our own culture, ang nahitabo magud sa tungod sa globalization, ang nahitabo, we adapt the culture of other countries. Okay? We like it. We love it. mao nang sundugo na to ang ilahang culture. We always wanted to kanabang kanang instead of matan-aw tag mga local nga TV shows di na ta matan-aw ana nila tan-aw na tag mga American or Western concept of entertainment. Karon no, ang mga tao yabag og mga K-pop, K-dramas. No? Balagwa sila kasabot. And then they like the culture. They like the language. So muna siya. Later on, we will talk about the advantage of disadvantage of globalization. Okay? To be honest with your class, globalization has more disadvantage than advantage. Okay, so muna no? Ningon ta, interdependence na noon ang kada country in terms of economy, culture, population, trade in goods, services, technology, investment, people, and information. And also, according to COP 2020, globalization is the spread of products, technology, information, and jobs across national borders and cultures. In economic terms, it describes an interdependence of nations around the globe fostered through free trade. So, actually, tungod sa globalization, daghang nga dato. Ay wala na may limit, wala na may border ang pag-trade o goods o services. You can work outside and get this higher salary. No? Globalization is a social, cultural, political, and legal phenomenon. Socially, it leads to greater interaction among various populations. And mag-crossbreed, magani, no? Culturally, globalization represents the exchange of ideas, values, and artistic expression among cultures. So we know that Koreans are like this, and then we like it. We know that Japanese people employ the Koban system and it's effective. So we try to adapt what is working, what is effective, what is efficient. Globalization also represents a trend toward the development of single world culture. So that's actually the very goal of globalization, to make everything one and the same, which reminds me of a biblical passage, no? Itong nahitabo sa Babylon, great city of Babylon, the Tower of Babel, no? Kasi nahitabo ato class. Giancarlo, are you familiar with the Tower of Babel? Importante ba yan ni mga biblical passages because these are also a prospect of where the examiners will get their questions. Okay, sa time nga nag-ikaw board exam na agi mga biblical passages dito, ay maumangod na ang tangible information or evidence of a particular history. So, sige, any student be sa may kahibaw dira unsay naubo sa Tower of Babel in Old Testament.
Pwede mo
Anyone?
try, Miss Perez, Miss.
Sige, Perez, Joanna.
Based on what I can remember, Miss, they were actually planning to build a tower that could reach heavens, like pinakataas na tower, Miss ba? But then, kay murag na anger ang God, na furious siya sa ilang actions, kay kuan ato. Then, tungod ato nga murag ilang gimak or gi-challenge ang God, gi-kuan siya nga, imbes na speak sila to one time og one language, kay ilang gi-infuriate siya, he had caused them to have these different languages nga pag when they have these different languages, they can no longer understand each other. And then, na-stop ang pag-build sa tower, anya na-scatter ang mga tao sa kuan, Miss, sa earth, mo to, Miss, kung na-recall.
Oh, ana. And then, is it not kanang awkward that the global elites are trying to make us one through globalization? One culture, one government, one kay Bomo, we are already practicing it. If the World Health Organization would say, lock your all your airports, that's already a one world government, di ba? Kaya, asa naman na ang independence of every country? Ingnon ra ka sa usa ka international organization to do this and that. So, is it not awkward? Or are you, if you are trying to listen to what Joanna said, the reason nga nang naghimo sila Tower of Babel that can reach heavens is that they will try to challenge God, that they can do everything as one people, one language. No? Muna ilahang kanang gitry of challenge. But of course, according to that biblical passage, who is like God? There is no one like God. Mauto, scattered sila. And para mas scattered sila, actually, they are forced to be scattered. Kaya ba mo, sige, buhat sa Ginoo para mapugos sila nga mag-scattered. God changes their language. Kaya ang istorya ka sa imong silingan nga, wag ka kasabot, di gyud ka mo kuyog, di ba? Adto ka kuyog sa mga tao nga nakasabot ka. Communication. Okay, we're talking about communication. So that's it. And right now, the global elite are trying to make us one. So, actually, that I am just trying to feed you that information for you also to think, analyze. Bitaw sa? Okay. Politically, globalization has shifted attention to intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization, United Nations. Okay. And tell you class that Philippines is a member of the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, halos tanang international organization ato nang gi-sign up. So kung unsay gusto nila, follow ta. Okay. Legally, globalization has nawala na. Legally rather, globalization has altered how international law is created and enforced. Globalization is a package of transnational flow of people, production, investment, information, ideas, and authority. Now, is it not, ma'am, dangerous? Oh, very good question. Is it not dangerous? It is actually dangerous. It's just ang promise man gud sa international nga mga organization like the UN is that we will help you when your country is on the worst scenario. We will give aid. We will give money. We will let you borrow money. So that's the promise. Okay. Now, let's move on to the key takeaways. Okay. Kani. Key takeaways, actually, it's a thought. Globalization has sped up to an unprecedented pace since the 1990s, with public policy changes and communications technology innovations cited as the two main driving factors. Another key takeaway: China and India are among the foremost examples of nations that has benefited from globalization. Okay, look at them now. Sus, kung imong basahon ang history class, ang China, after the fall of their kanang emperors, ang China class, pobre, kaya tanan na siya, ka country. Gitry pa gani nag-conquer sa mga Hapon. Pobre, kaya na siya. When they tried to apply communism on their country, in their country, they don't like the emperors, the monarchs anymore. So ang nahitabo, ang mga monarchs, ang mga royal blood, gidagan og Taiwan. Nagina sila grudge anang Taiwan, gusto na nilang kuhaon. Gidagan og Taiwan ang mga royal family. Pag take over ni Mao Zedong, pobre, tanan ng China. As in. Pero look at them now. The billionaires in the world. Kay baba mo nga ang kinadaganan nga billionaire sa tibuok kalibutan, mga insect. Do you know that? No, you don't. Now you know.
Yes, miss. Mga negosyante man, miss.
And then, kay baba mo nga ang mga billionaires are members of the Communist Party. Kay baba mo, ano? You're not just a billionaire without any reason at all. You're billionaires because you're a member of the Communist Party. How do they do that? Oh, ilahasan na. If we keep on digging information, magsakit imong dughan. Okay, so it's best nga diha lang sa takutob. And then kani China, India, mga pobre kaayo nga country. India is even a country that's under the United Kingdom. Pero diyan na sila sa United Kingdom. Karon mauna ang mga countries nga advanced in science. They've even owned satellites in space. Kanang mga first world country, daghan kina silang nana sila kaugalingon nilang mga satellites. Okay? Nag-launch mga rockets adto na og moon. So una pobre karon, look at them, no? They benefited globalization. Another key takeaway, one clear result of globalization is that an economic downturn in one country can create a domino effect through its trade partners. Have you seen a domino? Those little rectangles nga imong ipatindog, and then kung imong itod ang usa matumba, and so on and so forth. Domino. Right? So,
Yes, ma'am.
parihara na og ripple effect. And then, since nag-istorya tag downturn of economically, let's go to the advantage or disadvantage. Okay. But first, so may history aning globalization. Actually, sa una na globalization class. 200 years ago, 400 years ago, nanay globalization. If you're familiar with the Silk Road, ka-familiar mo ng Silk Road?
China na, miss.
Mauna siya ang karsada wherein diha moagi ang tanang mga merchants. Just riding horses and camels and donkeys and carriages para lang mag-trade. Okay? So, kung kinsa man guys, sa una class, kung kinsa man gani ang tag-iya sa Silk Road, mo ay pinaka-rich na country. So, people in China, in neighboring countries, kanang Silk Road taas kay naabot na sa Western Asia. Pakistan is trying to own it. No? Persia is trying to own it. Rome is trying to own Silk Road. Kay kung kinsay maka-own anang Silk Road mo may pinakadato. Ang moagi ka sa Silk Road, di ka mobayad og tax. Okay, pangayuan ka tong. Karon dili na mao. Whoever owns technology is the richest. Okay. So, globalization is not a new concept. As I mentioned, it is very old concept. The think tank, Peterson Institute of International Economics, states globalization stalled after World War I. That's 1900s. Yeah, tungod sa gubat, here come World War II, and then natong Great Depression class. Great Depression is the period where economically people are down, no? Tungod sa gubat, tungod sa pandemic, and so on. Nga, na-revive ra na siya pagkahuman sa World War II. Wherein the US took over the world, created United Nations. That's under Franklin Roosevelt presidency. Globalization has since sped up to an unprecedented pace with public policy changes and communications technology innovation cited as the two main driving factors. Okay. Now, let's go to the advantage. Ang advantage ani, madato gyud ka. Okay? Ma-improve ang standards of living of the people. Unya, free trade. Walay monopoly. Outsourcing by companies brings jobs and technology to developing countries. Example, kana mga BPO. Sa ganang BPO?
Call center agent.
Kana mga call centers, no? Mga, kasi tawag ka ng BPO. Ano siya yung meaning?
Business process outsourcing, miss.
Oh yes, yeah. Business process outsourcing, BPOs. So it could be inbound, outbound, no, maligya ka, pwede kang imoong customer service, and so on. So, before, kanang mga BPOs nara na sa America or European countries. Unya, they found out because of globalization, nag-outsource sila ilahang company, i-expand nila ilahang company, namili na sila mga countries nga gagmay ra og bayad sa labor. Okay? Mao nay tuyo na kanang gatuo ta ba nga mo improve lagi atong standards of living ani kay daghan natang trabaho diri sa Pilipinas. Actually, ang minaro nga istorya ana is that namili sila og mga country nga gamay ra ilahang bayad sa labor. That's why they choose India, they choose Philippines, they choose Singapore. Kay gamay ra tag sweldo niya og maka call center job na ta para nato dako na kay nga sweldo. Actually, it's not. O bitaw na nag-outsource sila kay gatipid sila sa bayad sa labor. Yan, nakapati pag yun ang mga BPO, dili ka after 6 months, ma-regular ka, pero naa sila yung mga policy nga og maka-violate ka, automatic dingang tangtang, dili ka protected under the labor code. Unya, kay lagi, ang schedule is not fit to a Filipino way of living, kay gabi mo duty, daghan yung mo resign, no? Dili mo dukot anang mga BPO companies. So muna siya, Outsourcing by companies brings jobs and technology to developing countries. Lipay ta. Pero actually, minaro na siya. Mobita nag-outsource sila, kaya tipid sila. Adto sa maduwag Amerika, may ingon din ang mga Amerikano, oy, ibalik na na inyong kumpanya diri sa Amerika kay nahug na noon nga kami na walay trabaho. Mo na istorya sa mga Amerikano. Okay. Unsay disadvantage? Paminaw mo aniha kay usa ni sa mga activity nga wa unyang ihatag sa inyo ha ini ka Monday. By the way, Monday wala tay klase kay National Heroes Day. So, kuan siya holiday, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, miss.
Okay. So, um, sa Wednesday, magtiwas ta og discuss. Okay. Disadvantage, an economic downturn in one country can create a domino effect to its trade partners. So if one country, especially the first world country, maka-experience of inflation, kita tanan maka-experience ana. Kung ang usa ka country, parehaan ang pandemic, angin tatanan, no? Tanang country na angin. Kay ang tungod sa globalization, easy access ang kada border, di ba? Pila na lang ka oras makaabot. Pwede na gyud kang mamahaw sa China, maniudto sa Vietnam, manihapon sa Las Vegas. Pwede gina siya. So, ang tao, ang movement sa tao nga nagdalag sakit, pwede nang maka-abot sa inyong country any day, any time of the day. So kung ing ana pandemic close gyud tanan borders, as a result it would kill us economically. Kaya ang manira na tong airports unsa pa may trabaho sa ato ang mga trabahante sa airport. Diba maapektuhan sa ilahang tagsa-tagsa ka pamilya. O niya ang ato ang mga eroplano di na maglupad-lupad. So sila sad apektado ang ilahang kita. So manag-giingon nga ang economic downturn in one country can create a domino effect through its trade partners. For example, ang BPO sa lain nga country, for example in America, manira na sila kay na bankrupt na sila ansad ang ilahang branches diri sa Philippines. Na bankrupt na. Ibaligya sa gobyerno ang mga buildings, so on. Another disadvantage of globalization, it has created a concentration of wealth and power in the hands of small corporate elite which can gobble up smaller competitors around the globe. That's correct. Well, ningon ta nga, ma'am, mo improve man among standard of living kay daghan naming trabaho, tinuod lagi na, pero mamonopolize na sa mga dagko nga kumpanya. Naay gamay nga kumpanya mo try unya na sikat ang buhaton sa mga dagkong kumpanya paliton. Like look at what Jollibee did to Chowking, to Mang Inasal, to sa paman sa panang mga companies nga ilang ibang palit. Lain-lain nagngan pero usara ang tag-iya ana, no? Monopoly. Mga corporate elites that could monopolize the economy. Okay. Pero kuan ma'am kanang Jollibee corporation man na siya or lagi sa corporation ang hari kung kinsa toy na ay tag-iya sa pinakadako nga stocks. Okay. Real world examples of globalization. A car manufacturer based in Japan can manufacture auto parts in several developing countries, ship the parts to another country for assembly, then sell the finished cars to any nation. Okay. For example, Toyota, Japan-owned car company. Katuo kag sa Japan gibuhat dili. Ang spare parts ana ikuha na siya sa lain nga country. Unya lain sa nag-assemble. And then pag abot sa Japan, na, as a whole na siya nga car, utangan na yung tatak Toyota. Then mayon na yun, made in Japan. Another example, sanina, utang ta. Okay. Ganahan kay kag usa may mga mahalon ron nga sanina. Dolce and Gabbana. Okay, kaila ba man ang Dolce and Gabbana? Versace na lang kay bao mo tanan. For example, Versace. Di ba Versace is sama ng Versace? It's a brand of beautiful clothes na only rich people can afford, right? Okay. For example, ang dress is made of nga nag-produce og pinakanindot nga silk utang ta Vietnam. Okay. So si Versace mukuha siya silk na cloth para himon og dress sa Vietnam. Unya maghimo si Versace og style sa dress. Siya yung drawing. Unya, igit yung si Versace may naghimo anak tanang nagdasaw nga sa nina. Dili. Di ana, himuon sa silk the way that they wanted to be. Like, unsay style, unsay color, unsay texture, and so on. And then after, ibutang niya sa China, okay na ang clothing. Nado na dito. Ikat, di ba? Si Versace, more Italian man siya. Ikat niya, or French. And then, gitahi. Gibalik sa Hong Kong kay gipatahi. Ang sanina. Pag human sa Hong Kong, natahi na, okay na ang fitting. Nga naman, i-ship nilaglain nga mga countries, ma'am, kay lagi, barato ang labor. Okay? Kung prestigious nga designer or tailor ang imuha pahimuna na dako kay nagbayad. So, may ipatahi nila sa country nga barato ra ang bayad. Okay. So, natahi na. Igabot sa Italy, ilaha dayon ng tan-awon kung maayo ba ang pagatahi, no? Ilaha ng i-fix and then i-fit sa kinsa nga celebrity nga ilahang baligyaan. Nya, palit mo ana sa clothes. Mahal kay na siya. It costs dollars, and then we're talking about not just thousands but millions of dollars to just wear a Versace dress. Yeah. Mo man ay mga dress nga gamiton sa mga celebrity inig mag red carpet, no? Panalitan ato sila red carpet na sila attenan kay launching silang movie. Okay. So that's just a dress that I'm talking about. Now, bags. Okay. Bags. Again, palit ka og raw material sa lain nga country. Ipahimo nimo sa lain nga country. And then finished product, himuon nimo ang kuno nimo nga imuha. And then sell it to celebrities. Baligyan nimo mahal. And then you butangan lang nimo direct Dolce and Gabbana. So you're just basically paying the name, but the raw materials are taken from other countries. So, muna siya ang real-world examples of globalization. Okay. What are the components of globalization? Territory. You'll be talking about territory. You'll be talking about people. Okay. Government. Sovereignty. Okay.
Mama, saan ka, ma'am?
Ito anang i-discuss. So, for now, let's discuss with territory. Ano ito territory? So, sa maning territory, it's a place, of course, of exclusive jurisdiction of those who sojourn within with protected rights and privileges. So, ang United Nation kay kasagaran lagi sa gubat class ang rason territory. Okay? Makig-away ang usa ka nation sa other nation kay tungod gahinakog sa territory. Gustong i-expand ilahang territory. So United Nations said, okay, let's settle this once and for all. Let's make a rule nga ang territory atong i-define para i-respect sa kada country or kada nation. So according to the United Nations Declaration of National Territories, it defines origin of boundaries. It also gives the types of boundaries. Okay? So what is origin of boundaries? It's the original divisions were often based upon the extent of available agricultural land or on the influence of a central group of city as surrounding area. And what are the types? We have boundary, we have map. Kaya ba man taong say map, no?
Yes,
O
ma'am.
mauna siya. Abi na kog walay kahibaw map dire. Okay. We have boundary refers to the line that divides one geographic area from another. It is often more complex. And we have the map. It's a representation, actually, of a line of dashes running along the crest of a mountain range or down the middle of a major river or straight line across a desert. So let me show you a world map. Okay, hold on, class. Okay. I am showing to you the world map. Then if you can see, class, na mga linya-linya, right? So that's the boundary. Unya, if you can see, kasagaran sa mga linya, dili mga straight, right? Because it normally follows a mountain range. You cannot just draw a line sa gusto lang imong i-draw. Diba? Naana siya'y specific nga rason nga nang dili straight ang mga line diha. Why? Because kasagaran sa mga boundaries, it's covered by mountain ranges, mga bukid. Okay. And then, by now, dapat kaibaw na mo pila ka buok ang continent, no? Sa Earth. Unya, unsa ni siya nga mga continent? Unya, asa dapit na locate? What are those big oceans that surrounded the lands on Earth? We have Pacific Ocean, Atlantic, Indian Ocean. So mani ang mga dagko kaayo nga mga oceans. Okay. And we also have Arctic Ocean on the North Pole and Atlantic Ocean on the South Pole. And then Pacific Ocean, this is the ocean that our country is facing at on the southern or on the eastern side. Okay. Sa atoa, class, sa Asia, sa east, ang clock mag-start gina sa eastern side. So diri mag-una og rise ang sun. Okay? Muna siya gitawag diri dapit eastern side, and then US, Europe, it's western. Okay, western part of the globe. Okay. So, stop presenting. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Nakita ninyo akong screen, class? Okay.
Joanne only. Mobile.
Okay. So, classification of boundary, international and disputed boundary. International boundary refers to a line that divides a country from another country by a mutual peaceful agreement. Disputed boundary, from the name disputed meaning gilalisan, no? Like in the West Philippine Sea, okay? That's still a disputed boundary. Though the international courts of justice, no, ICJ, already declared na the Spratly Islands is owned by the Philippines, not by the Chinese. Pero gahi magkigol ang mga ilang yung ipadayon. So, ilahan na lang na. Whether it's disputed or not, it depends entirely on our government and to the government of China. Ang nahitabo manggod, muratag mahadlok mo enforce kay una sa tanan, dako kay tag-utang kawabuton sa mga insect. Ano man, it's them who funded our infrastructure, no? Build program of our former president. Mao mo kinsay nag-donate ana, ang butang talang, ang word is donation. Mga insect butang talang nga sila may nakaunang discover sila spread sa virus, sila say naka-discover sa pinakaunang vaccine, nag-donate. Karon saon lang na ang ato ang disputed boundary. Murabag na ho nga, ilahan lang na ano no? Pero kay bawo mo na siya consequence. Unsay gigamitan nila sa ato ang mga islands sa West Philippine Sea. Naghimo sila man-made nga island. Meaning gitambakan nila murabag reclamation. Tambakan o yuta, sand. Anya, gihimong militaries ng agian og mga fighting planes, pagpahanan og mga eroplano og mga helicopter. Gihimong docking port sa mga naval ships nila. So, if that's the case, kung ikaw ang neighboring country, mahadlok ka Okay, why are they creating military bases? Are they planning to create a war? Preparing for a war? Something like that. So, na siya bati ng consequences sa Philippines. Okay, they might confront us of the things that they've donated to our country, to our beloved Philippines, no? And if it's a disputed boundary, now, para sa aman ta makaingon nga, this is a ceasefire line and a treaty line. But first, unsa ning ceasefire line? Established by an official ceasefire